as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. I guarantee you they'll be the most comfortable sheets you'll ever own.
I do not like my sheets. I love my Giza Dream sheets.
Call or go to mypillow.com right now to take advantage of Mike's limited time offer. Use the promo code on the screen, and when you buy one set of Giza Dream sheets, Mike will send you another set absolutely free. That's right, buy one set of Giza Dream sheets and get another set absolutely free. Choose from a variety of colors in solid, stripes, and new flannel sheets. Order now.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Log cabin lovers deserve the best. eloghomes.com is the leading nationwide manufacturer and builder of best-priced, spectacular log homes with handcrafted complements. Browse hundreds of cabins and thousands of interior pictures on our interactive website. Register today and qualify for an additional 40% off any log home and thousands of dollars in additional free handcrafted accessories. Register now at eloghomes.com.
Hi, I'm Deborah. I'm from Colorado. I've been married to my high school sweetheart for 35 years. I'm a mother of 4, always busy. I was starting to feel a little foggy. I just didn't feel like things were as sharp as I knew they once were. I heard about Prevagen, and then I started taking it about 2 years now. Started noticing, seemed a little sharper, a little clearer, and I feel like it's kept me on my game. I am able to remember things and say, give it a try.
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life.
Saving is really important to Larry. And the Zebra helped him save by comparing the top insurance companies side by side. Save an average of $440 on car insurance. Compare and save at thezebra.com.
It's Blue Diamond, the only fry pan infused with millions of diamonds. So non-stick it's like cooking on air. Absolutely nothing sticks to Blue Diamond. It's the strongest pan you'll ever own. Dishwasher safe and toxin-free non-stick Blue Diamond available at these fine stores.
Closed captioning brought to you by Norton 360 with LifeLock.
All right, honey latte.
What's the Wi-Fi password?
Oh, it's Hack Me.
Are you serious?
Opt into cyber safety at norton.com.
California has announced a new ban on small off-road gas motors. It's just another example of the government thinking it has the right to be as annoying as possible. Here today to discuss this ridiculous measure is FreedomWorks Director Beverly McKittrick. Beverly, thank you so much for joining us here on Save the Nation.
I'm glad to be here and talk about yet another bad environmental regulation coming from the left. Like a lot of what the left comes up with, it sounds good. It sounds like it helps the environment, but it really does more harm than good. And aside from the assault on personal freedom, individual choice, and adding lots of costs to consumers and small businesses.
Does this really help at all in reducing the threat to our environment? You talk to us about that.
It may reduce emissions slightly by going to battery-powered or electric lawn equipment, golf carts, etc. But what no one talks about is the environmental cost of producing the batteries to run this equipment, or of generating the electricity that this equipment plugs into.
Let me ask you this. You know, Beverly, I grew up in the country, grew up on a farm. And a lot of tractors, gas-powered tools, what have you, they were a necessity. And the reason we use those is because of the power that they produce through the gasoline-driven engine. Does the electrical tools actually perform as well, and will they actually become an encumbrance to men and women who work with power tools?
They will encumber their work. First of all, they cost twice as much. They're less than half as efficient, so they have to keep mowing the same area or trimming the same area. And a landscaping company, for example, would probably have to carry 30 to 40 fully charged EV batteries every day on the job, which of course makes the trucks weigh more, which means they use more gas or more power to burn them. But mining the stuff that goes into these batteries, the graphite, the cobalt, the rare earth minerals, comes from China, where there are basically no environmental standards. Comes from the Congo, where you have tremendous child labor and labor abuse issues. And South America, where to extract these minerals requires tremendous amounts of water, not to mention massive displacement of land.
Let's talk about land maintenance for a moment. People who are in the land maintenance business, how does this affect them? Because I have friends who, that's their lawn service. They have a lawn service. And every tool I've noticed on their trailers, they're they're gas-powered tools. How does it affect them?
Well, they'll have to replace them by 2024. They'll have to buy new tools. They'll cost a lot more. They won't work as well. And California has set aside $30 million to help cover the cost. So taxpayers will be paying that. But that's not nearly enough to cover what it's going to cost to replace all these tools.
So this hasn't been thought through very well, would you say?
Correct. There should at least be exemptions for, generators and things that are matters be matters of life and death. Mm-hmm. The whole regulation is bad, but at least if you're going to have a bad regulation, make sure no one dies from it.
That's amazing. We need to make sure no one dies. And you're pointing to the fact that when we look at the big picture, the long game, these people are all short gamers when it comes to the foresight that went into this.
Well, exactly, and they're not thinking through the mining of the materials for these batteries. They're not thinking through these batteries have a life of, I think, 6 to 8 to 10 years, and they're not really recyclable.
They're not.
And to recycle the parts and make new ones, it costs many times more than to just create new ones. And so then we're going to have a problem of disposing them because they cannot be put safely in landfills.
And folks, let me tell you what we can do. We can stand up and push back against these types of regulations. Beverly McKittrick, I want to thank you for being here with us on Save the Nation today. And to all of you out there, we want to thank you for joining us. And I certainly hope that you have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you next Sunday on Save the Nation.
Tonight on Huckabee, Tennessee Congressman David Kustoff, the clean comedy of Lee Harden, home chef Abby Turner, music from the 70s R&B band Radio. That's Stray Corley in the Music City Connection. And I'm your announcer, Keith Bilbrey. And now, here's Mike Huckabee.
Welcome, everybody, and we have a great studio audience here tonight. So grateful for them and for you. And I got great news for those of you who want to take your kids trick-or-treating or attend a Halloween carnival at your kid's school. Dr. Fauci said it'll be okay to have Halloween this year. I really hate to burst his bubble, but I honestly don't need Dr. Fauci's permission to have Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or for that matter, I don't need his permission for going to church or a football game. You know, when this whole pandemic started and President Trump was doing daily press conferences and answering hours of questions, I thought Dr. Fauci was an expert and we ought to listen to him. But as time moved on, I noticed that he changed his mind about as often as a baby changes a diaper, and for being filled with the same stuff. I mean, Remember when he adamantly told us not to wear a mask? It would be useless to protect us against the virus. And in fact, it would be dangerous for anyone but medical people to use a mask because we'd be touching the mask and our faces, and it would be bad to wear a mask. Then a few months later, the same Dr. Fauci told us we had to wear a mask. And later, he said we ought to wear 2 or even 3 masks. He told us if we shut everything down for 2 weeks, we'd flatten the curve. Hey, we're going on 2 years, and all we've done is flatten the economy and destroyed a whole lot of small businesses. And then he told us it wouldn't be safe to go to church if there were more than 10 people there. Folks, a church with less than 10 people is probably a dead church anyway. But while church or a small mom and pop store was too dangerous to keep open, because if we went there, we would die. Yet it was fine to go to Walmart or a big supermarket and be wall to wall with thousands of strangers. We'd be okay there. Fauci said sporting events and open-air stadiums were too dangerous, but he never said that Antifa and Black Lives Matter riots where people crowded together to burn government buildings and police cars was a problem at all. He told us not to even think about having Thanksgiving with our families last year. Early on, he told us to wash all the vegetables, the fruits, and the canned goods coming into our homes. By summer, he said, never mind, you can't catch COVID by touching stuff. I mean, the more this thing has gone on, the more I think Dr. Fauci enjoys being on TV and telling people what to do. And if he changes the science says, then he gets to go on TV again and tell us that the science has changed. I wonder if he really wants to control the very real threat, and it is real, the real threat of COVID, or if he just wants to control us. And if we're supposed to follow the science, but the science seems to always keep changing and zigzagging all over the landscape, how do you follow it? And if science is so unsure that it changes every few weeks, what does that say about the so-called science of climate change? Now, when I was in college, we were told that we would be having a coming ice age in 10 years. 10 years later, that didn't happen, but we were told the ozone layer was disappearing and we were going to get toasted in the next 10 years. That didn't happen, so in 10 years after that, global warming was going to melt all the glaciers and we'd be drowned by flooding in, of course, 10 years. 10 years later, it's just climate change brought on by the flatulence of cows, having cars, and going places in airplanes. Now, if science is that uncertain, following it seems like following a 5-year-old around the toy store. Look, I do believe in science, real science, but I also believe the Bible. And folks, this world isn't going to end until God is done with it. And in the meantime, I'll be really happy. I'll be happy to listen to the scientists, but I want them to listen to me over this. We're going to have Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, whether they say it's okay or not, because it's still America, and unelected bureaucrats, even smart ones, don't get to order us how to live. The American economy is facing some of its biggest challenges in years as the price of just about everything has gone up and your dollar buys a whole lot less. Congressman David Kustoff of Memphis is a member of Congress. He's on the House Financial Services Committee. He says President Joe Biden owns this mess, and his proposed $3.5 trillion spending spree is only going to make matters worse, and it will also hurt hardworking Americans. Would you please welcome to the show Congressman for the great state of Tennessee, David Kustoff. We are seeing some crazy stuff right now with the economy, and the White House has sort of made light of it, with the chief of staff saying that it's really only hurting the high end of the American public. I have a hard time believing that's true.
You know, Governor, you're exactly right, and that shows truly how out of touch some of those people are in Washington the Democratic hierarchy. And that really concerns me because when I talk to my constituents, I've got all types of constituents, they're all concerned about the high price that they're paying for everything, whether it's gasoline, whether it's food, you name it, and it keeps going up. And a big part of the problem is the spending in Washington. I think we all realize that. You just talked about $3.5 trillion. Well, back in March, Joe Biden pushed through, strictly on a party line basis, $1.9 trillion in spending. The government can't keep printing money, but when it does, it continues to add to these inflationary pressures. And we're going to continue to pay more and more for these goods and services.
What's in that $3.5 trillion bill that has nothing to do with infrastructure? I mean, some people have started pointing out, as they've read it, which I'm convinced a lot of people haven't, but there's some weird stuff in there.
There is, Governor. And you think about, first of all, when we talk about these numbers, you were a governor of Arkansas, big numbers. It's hard to wrap, even though I've been around it, $3.5 trillion. It's just an incredible amount of money. But what you're talking about, what we're talking about, is new cradle-to-grave benefits that if these government benefits are started, we'll never get rid of them. We'll never get rid of them.
And what are some of those benefits? What are some of the things that baked into this thing?
So they talk about free childcare, free daycare that's paid for, the continuation of these child tax payments that started earlier this year that they want to make permanent.
Somebody has made the observation, we got all these cargo ships parked offshore on the West Coast, that if we were manufacturing stuff in America, we wouldn't need the cargo ships. It would already be in the country. How do we get back to making things in America rather than depending upon the Chinese to make our stuff?
You know, I think that President Trump had it exactly right. And that was, his goal was to bring manufacturing back to the United States. So he pushed through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017 to encourage businesses to bring business to the United States, manufacturing to the United States. And we started to see that because he lowered rates not only for individuals, but for businesses. Now, when Joe Biden talks about $3.5 trillion, he's got to pay for it somehow, which means...
Well, he says it won't cost anything because it'll all be paid for. I don't understand that math. I really don't.
You know, when I see him say that and Jen Psaki look in the camera and say that, you really have a hard time believing whether they even believe it. I mean, they have to know that that's not the case. But if we continue to raise taxes on people and on businesses, there's no incentive to locate here. The corporate tax rate in China is 25%. President Trump lowered the rate from 35% to 21%. Joe Biden wants to take it to 26, 27, 28%. Why would anybody want to manufacture in the U.S. when you could do it cheaper in other countries? So we've got to give the incentive.
Next year's big election. A lot of people are speculating that if these trends continue to go, the Democrats will lose the House and possibly the Senate. Preview for us. If that